This is Black Wall Street Chronicles, and we're back at it again. On this episode, I'm going to talk about Sinners. I'm going to give my review of the movie. I think it's a great movie. Ryan Coogler is we're starting to see that Ryan Coogler is a directorial genius. Like, this movie is a great horror film. Now, before we get started, I just want to issue a spoiler alert, okay? So if you have not watched the movie, please turn this podcast off and go to the movies as quickly as you possibly can if you can afford to go into the movies. So, I'm going to break down the imagery that I saw in the movie. First off, it is believed that this particular movie is based on a blues player that had an urban legend about selling his soul to the devil. The blues player name is Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson was a poor blues guitar player who went down the crossroads at midnight and made a deal with the devil to be the best blues player ever. And I'm actually going to talk about the legend of Robert Johnson in the next episode of this podcast. Yeah, in the beginning of the movie, you had the Choctaw tribe, I hope I'm pronouncing them correctly, went to the Ku Klux Klan members and trying to warn them that the man that they took in was actually not the man that he seemed, that man is a vampire. And we actually never saw these people again. And that's very interesting. The imagery that it represents, that the Native American tribe, you know, is going to only warn you once. And once you warn you once and you don't understand that the monsters are inside, they're going to leave you alone and let you deal with the monsters themselves. That's great for political imagery because, we as black people feel that we need to stand up for democracy and we need to stand up for everybody. But if our people don't see the monsters, and we just pray for them and go with God and we make sure that we protect ourselves. There was a scene when the Irish vampire, was river dancing outside of the juke joint. And the river dancing is the imagery is very interesting because it pays homage to the whole vampire mythos, because the person who wrote the first book and the most famous book about Count Dracula is a man by the name of Bram Stoker. Bram Stoker was an Irishman that wrote the fable Dracula in the 1500s. And the reason why it's a fable, because it's based on a real person. The real person is called Vlad Tepes. He was a serial killer and a cannibal, a Romanian nobleman who chopped people's heads off, put them on pikes, and drink blood. So to see the river dancing and to see them pay Ryan Coogler paying homage to the whole vampire mythos like that was crazy. What other imagery we saw on the screen? You had the Smoke and Stacks. Smoke's girlfriend represents the spiritual mother goddess. She was the one with all the knowledge and all the information, and they used that information to protect themselves from the vampires. Stack's girlfriend represents, the white passing black person. And it's a shame because she thought that her proximity towards whiteness was able to go outside and convince them to perform for their juke joint so they could make some money. And it turns out that she was the one that was attacked by the vampires first. And the imagery of that is very important because there's a lot of white passing people and mixed race people believe that their proximity to whiteness is going to actually save them, but the actuality is not. Also, what else in the movie I'm going to talk about? Let's see, the blues player. Um, the movie was basically the spirituality between song and dance. There was the music and the culture representative in the movie. And the blues player that was in the movie, he was basically saying that, there are some people who are musicians who are so good at playing music they can actually summon the spirits of the past and the future ancestors of music making. And the reason why the Irish vampire wanted that blues player because in the movie it states that when you're a vampire and you are immortal, you're not able to go back with your ancestors. And he wanted to use the blues player's music playing so he can summon his ancestors. So he can bring his ancestors back because the Irish vampire, he hasn't talked to his ancestors in the 1500s. And he was trying to use the fact that he is Irish, and Irish is also victim of colonization to identify with the black people that was in the Jew joint that was victims of oppression. He even let them know that the Klan members the next day was going to come and they was going to try to kill everybody. And so he was trying to give them alternative. He's like, listen, these white supremacists is going to come and kill you, and we can be together and we can be a happy family. But that guy, that vampire, was a monster, so they said no. Everybody was mad at the Chinese lady for inviting the vampires in, but the Chinese lady made the right decision because she was like, listen, if we don't do something about the monsters outside, they have the ability to take over the town. The way that that Irish vampire was able to take over everybody and do it quickly was very scary. I'm not going to tell you what happens in the end of the. Well, I can tell you. I already gave the spoiler alert, so I'll tell you what happens in the end. So, Smoke and Stack are twins. Stack, because of the white passing, his girlfriend became a vampire. Smoke was about to kill him, but he wasn't able to. However, Smoke was able to save the blues player from being taken over by the vampires, and all the vampires died in the sunlight, and Stack and Mary was able to escape. Smoke told the blues player to go home and don't ever pick up a guitar again. And as he was going home and he was going to church, you know, Smoke remembered that vampire's warning about the Ku Klux Klan members going to the juke joint. So Smoke had the weapons because he used to be him and Smoke and Stack used to be gangsters in Chicago. So they had Tommy guns and rifles set up. And the minute that the Ku Klux Klan came, Smoke mowed the Ku Klux Klan members down, even though he was dying while he was doing it. And as he was on the verge of dying, he actually saw the image of his wife and his unborn child. The blues player was able to survive, and he decided that he wasn't going to put his guitar down and he was going to go and become a world famous blues player. And Stack and Mary are vampires and they're still alive. And at the end of the movie, when the blues player was very old, Stack and Mary decided to visit him for one last time. And he gave him an offer. It was like, would you want to be immortal? He was like, nah, I saw enough of this world. I'm good. And basically, that's how the movie ends. Horror films in general are like fables to, urban legends and fables of what happens in the real world. The vampire mythos is no different. I've already told you about Vlad Tepes, but there's another Elizabeth Valerie. She was a noble woman who was a serial killer. They used to bring virgins to her house, kill them, drain their blood, so because she thought if she bathed in virgin blood, it actually would keep her young. They sentenced her to be locked away in a castle. The vampire mythos is, there's a spiritual meaning. Like, one thing that was very interesting, and I'm surprised a lot of people did not know this, that vampires may be bigger, stronger, and faster than you, but they can't do anything to you unless you invite them in the house. And it's a spiritual meaning. Well, your house is sacred and you're not supposed to allow, you know, evil people in your house because they are going to mess up your stuff. Well, that's my review of the movie. I give the movie 10 out of 10. Again, if you want to see this movie yourself, go watch it. This is Black Wall Street Chronicles, and I'm signing off. God bless you.